Although the hovercraft service began in 1968, there has been a ferry service across the channel for many years. The first modern ferry used for a regular passenger service was the British paddle steamer Rob Roy, first making the crossing on the 10th of June 1821 and put into regular service in 1822 after being bought by the French. At this time, the crossing took around 3 hours. By 1854, the channel ports had built deeper water berths and were soon accommodating liners such as the Queen and the Empress, making crossings in an hour and a half. Propeller-driven ships were introduced in 1903, and cars were first carried across in 1928 when they were regularly craned onto ferries. During this time, railway ferries had been born, and these allowed trains to roll directly onto ferries and off again on the other side. At the tail end of the First World War in 1918, British troops had begun loading tanks and the like onto train ferries to carry them back to Richmond Port in Kent, and this is where the idea of a roll-on, roll-off car ferry began to take off. In the interwar years, there was a lack of demand for these services, but after the Second World War, the idea started gaining traction again, and by 1953, the Ro-Ro ferry terminals were introduced at Dover and Calais, and the modern service we see today began to take shape. Throughout the decade, an average of 100,000 vehicles crossed the channel each year. In modern years, the Ro-Ro ferry services are still extremely popular, having been made as efficient as possible. Although they are beaten on speed by the Channel Tunnel and previously by hovercraft, the cost cannot be beaten. Dover today handles 30% of the Ro-Ro arrivals into the UK, and this is serviced by 3 operators with 13 vessels. With the introduction of the Channel Tunnel and the demise of the hovercraft and catamaran services, traditional ferries now take around 1 hour and a half to complete the trip, in line with the time taken in 1854. Speed is no longer the object, with efficiency and cost taking over. The experience is nothing extraordinary, with a ferry's facilities best being described as similar to a service station. The glamour of the hovercraft is no longer here, with ships mainly containing a cheap restaurant, arcade, seating areas and a small duty-free shop. As before, and as it seems they always will, the traditional Ro-Ro ferry continues to trundle across the channel, unapologetically transporting the public between the continent and the small island nation we call home.